Back at the Good Shepherd Family Fitness Center, and I'm here with Kate. Kate, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
My name is Kate Mersick, and I'm the head Pilates instructor here at Good Shepherd. And I work with teacher training programs, one-on-one with clients, overseeing our department, and also a little bit of manual therapy as well.
So our topic today is flexibility, and I know that you're the guru on flexibility. So can you tell us a little bit about flexibility and why we need to do it?
Sure. Flexibility is just as important as getting in your cardio and your strength training. It's determined on genetics and how you're using your body, how often you're moving, what you subject your body to, as well as hydration and nourishment. In terms of hydration specifically, that's something it's advisable to log how much you're drinking water per day.
There's a place on our device that you can actually log your hydration, and you're saying that hydration has a big impact on your flexibility.
Absolutely, yeah. Hydration helps to keep your tissues moist and elastic. And massage therapists often actually notice when somebody is dehydrated because their tissues won't respond to techniques as well and won't have that elasticity that we need from healthy tissues.
How would a student know that they're dehydrated?
Some people say that when you are experiencing thirst, that at that point you're dehydrated. And actually a good rule of thumb that I've heard is that basically your weight in pounds, if you divide that by 2, that's the amount of ounces of water that you need to stay hydrated.
So half of your body weight. So if you're 100 pounds, that means you need 50 ounces of water in a day. Mm-hmm. So that would be a really good baseline of how much water you need in a day. So what else about flexibility?
So flexibility can be thought of in terms of our joint range of motion as well as the elasticity of our soft tissues, of our muscles, and of our fascia. And both are equally important in terms of joint mobility. Sometimes our joints get stiff just because of inactivity or because the tissue around it stiffens and reduces our range of motion. But if you're planning on doing any sports or not even doing sports but just getting out of the bed or bending over to pick something off the floor, you need to have good flexibility to keep your body safe and prevent injuries.
I noticed that I was a gymnast my whole life, and being flexible has been such an asset to just my daily being. And now that I'm getting older and I don't practice flexibility quite as much, I'm definitely feeling different in my body and realizing that I need to stretch every day. Is there a time of the day that you suggest for a good stretch?
First and foremost, you just want to be incorporating stretches. So for you, if that means doing it in the morning or doing it at night before you go to bed, whenever you make the effort to put in towards your stretching and flexibility work, go with that. But in terms of what's the ideal time of day, it just depends. If you wake up feeling stiff, then you want to address it. Do some light walking around, get your tissues moving and your blood flowing, and then try and do some gentle stretching. Mm-hmm. A lot of people prefer the end of the day because at that point you have been moving around all day and your tissues are warm and can adapt to the stretch a little better.
I find that I need it at both times of the day. When I wake up, I'm stiff and I just want to feel some movement in my body. And then at the end of the night, I just feel like I want to do a little bit of stretching before I go to bed. So if you don't do it, try it. The other thing is mindfulness, mindfully stretching and feeling where you stretch. Can you tell us a little bit about mindfully stretching?
Yeah, so you want to be present as you're stretching. You don't want to be zoned out watching TV or thinking about your homework assignments you're doing. You want to be focused on what you're feeling as you stretch. Because sometimes when we're not totally aware of what you're doing, you can stretch too far, causing injury to the tissues around. You could push yourself too far, or you could just be not productive. And if you're not productive in your stretching, you're not going to be likely to continue it. So you want to be aware, focus on your breathing habits, and try to relax versus tightening up and guarding against the stretch.
Mm-hmm. I noticed in class that a lot of people say, well, I just am not good at stretching. What would you say to that?
Anybody can be good at stretching. It just comes down to putting in the thought and the effort and taking the time to actually do it. But you shouldn't experience pain from stretching. If you notice that after stretching you feel worse, you might want to talk with somebody who knows good stretching techniques and habits to get some good guidance there. But it should, all in all, be an enjoyable experience.
And it's a daily practice. I mean, you can't expect to be really good at stretching unless you practice it every day, and it gets better every day.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't want to wait until your flexibility declines to then try and gain flexibility. You want to stay ahead of the curve and work at it from a young age throughout life.
Let's talk a little bit about flexibility and injury prevention.
Sure. So in terms of flexibility and injury prevention, oftentimes we experience injuries when our joints are taken in their end range of motion. And so if you're somebody who's tight or lacking in flexibility, your body is not going to enjoy being taken to end range of motion. So flexibility allows you to control your mechanics in moving throughout a whole spectrum of movement versus only in the intro stage. Yeah.
And then let's talk a little bit about why a person might dynamically stretch and statically stretch. So we talk a little bit about dynamic and static, and what's the difference between the two, and why at what point in the day should we do either one of those two?
So dynamic and static stretching are only 2 of 7 different types of stretches that we do. They're just often the more popular versions of stretching. Dynamic stretching you do with control and thoughtfully, and you're moving your limbs within their range of motion, and you're trying not to push past their limits. So it's great for before your activities in order to warm up your body, warm up your tissues, and maintain flexibility, but typically you're not going to look to see huge gains in flexibility from doing.
So a dynamic stretch would be more of like what you're seeing the volleyball team or the basketball team doing prior to an activity. It's just getting your body moving, it's getting your blood flow going. We would do it in class every day just to sort of get yourself moving. That would be a dynamic stretch. You're not improving your flexibility, you're just getting that body moving and feeling a little bit more pliable. Static stretching, a little different purpose.
Yeah, static stretching, the science changes a little bit, but in general, you're holding a static stretch for around 20 seconds and repeating that 2 to 3 times. You're holding a position and trying to make gains on your flexibility. You want to be careful that you're not pushing yourself past your comfort zone and you're not being pushed physically by somebody to go past your range of motion and what's comfortable for you. But with static stretching, you look to make gains in flexibility over a period of time. And you want to do so strategically by not stretching something that's already very flexible, but by stretching the areas of your body that are tight or restricted.
And static stretch should be done when?
Static stretching, you want to have your body warmed up, but not actually too warm. So the appropriate time to do it is after you've gone for a walk or after you've been moving your body for a little while. You wouldn't really want to do it after a marathon or after a big athletic event, because then you're not going to be able to feel your range of motion limitations and you'd be more inclined to overstretch at that point.
Mm-hmm. And so after PE class at the end of the day, we would go ahead and static stretch. We'd hold it for 20 to 30 seconds to improve our flexibility. And in the beginning of class, we would dynamically stretch, just getting yourself moving and getting our body moving. So any other thoughts you have about flexibility and why kids should do it?
Don't wait too long to start working at it. And when you see that a neighbor or a grandparent who's walking very stiff and rigid, you don't want to get to that point. You want to be working at it proactively in advance to keep your body safe and limber and loose.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on flexibility. It's a really important piece of our fitness and our health, and so thank you, Kate, for sharing that information with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.